Hey guys, Chris from Provo Beast Audio Installation, and in today's video we're replacing the front speakers on this 2022 Ford F150. Now in this install we're going to show you how to remove the door panel, remove the factory speaker, both the one in the door as well as one up in the dash. We'll head to the bench, show you the parts that we're going to need for the install, including the speaker bracket adapter and harness, and we'll come back here to get everything reinstalled. Let's get started. Alright, so before we jump into things here, like mentioned before, we're replacing not only the factory 6x9 here in the door, but the tweeter up in the dash. One quick thing to note, not only do we have two speakers, but we also have the B&O factory audio sound system. This is the amplified audio. One note here is, even though it has a factory amplifier, they're still 4 ohm speakers, which allows you to install just basically any aftermarket speaker in the factory location, whether you have the amplifier or not. Additionally here, this is not the B&O Unleashed version. If you have the Unleashed version, those are a little bit different, and we can link that information and put those notes in the description for you. Finally here, this applies both to the Lightning as well as the gas version of the F150. The audio sound system is just the same. Today we happen to be working on the Lightning. First thing we need to do is go ahead and get our door panel off. Now there's going to be two 7mm behind this little panel here. There's two 7mm at the base of the door. There's also a 7mm, your little reflector panel. And then finally, there is a 7mm behind your sail panel there at the top. Once all of those have been removed, the rest of the door panel itself is held in with clips. So we have a little panel here. Now there's usually tabs at the bottom and clips at the top. So you want to start at the top. We have our little pick tool here. You can try to get in there. You can also use a flathead screwdriver. You just don't want to scratch your plastic. So there's our two clips at the top, two tabs at the bottom here. Once you pull that out, you're going to see two 7mm screws. Go ahead and remove those. Just like so. Now these screws are different from all the other ones, so set them off separately. Now there's a little reflector here on the side of the door here. Now you can use a flathead screwdriver or pick tool, you just don't want to mar up your plastic. There's a clip at the top and the bottom. We're going to go ahead and use a pick tool here just to get right inside. And what we're doing is trying to pop open the 7mm screw, just like that. Underneath the door panel, you're going to have two more 7mm screws, identical to the one we just removed. Just like so. And finally, here at the top behind the sail panel, we also have one more screw here at the base. Now to get the sail panel off, it is held on with clips. Again, we have a removal tool. You can use a vinyl panel trim tool as well. We'd like to get in there and just pop these free without scratching the paint on the door. We have two clips at the bottom, two bigger clips up top, and then remove the last 7mm. Once all those screws are removed, at this point in time, we need to pop the door panel free. Now you can kind of start here at the bottom and give it a tug. It is clips up and around the door panel itself. Okay, all the door clips have been released. So we can lift up the door panel and it comes off. Now you're going to have a harness on your switches, anything electrical, and you're also going to have a mechanical connection for the door release as well as your lockup here. So let's go ahead and disconnect those. Okay, everything should come on free. Now here on the door panel, this is for your handle or door release. This will be in this position. Here on the back, you'll notice there's a place to pull down. That'll actually release it from the door, allowing this to come free. Your door lock, just two simple little tabs. You can squeeze those in, this pops on out. These harnesses all have their own specific tabs and they're keyed differently, so they'll go back in their own specific location. Now this gives us great access to our 6x9 factory speaker. You're going to have two 7mm on the bottom, two on the top. Before we pull that out, go ahead and just disconnect your harness here. Same thing, push in the tab, Comes on free. Go ahead and remove your screws. Go ahead and give it a tug. Should come on out. There's your factory speaker. Like mentioned before, it's just a 4 ohm speaker, whether it's the B&O base or factory base audio sound system. You can replace this speaker with either a coaxial or a mid-range at this location. With this now removed, we're going to head over to the bench to show you the mid-bass or mid-range driver that we're going to be replacing and installing in this location. All right, so here at the bench, the parts that we're using for the install here today, first and foremost, are the speakers that we've chosen to replace our factory component set with. These are the Alpine Type R 6x9 component set, which means the mid-range driver is separate from the tweeter. A coaxial generally means that the tweeter is mounted in the center of your mid-range speaker as an all-in-one unit. We decided to go with the component set just like Ford's factory set, where we're going to put the mid-range driver in the door and we're going to replace the tweeter here in the dash in just a moment. These specific tweeters are the R-S69C.2. These provide plenty of power and they will work great with our factory amplifier. Again, whether that'll be factory amplified or not, these will work in your application. Now, to install these speakers in the factory location, we need some adapter parts. Brackets are the Metra 82-5606. They come in pairs, so you'll have them for both front doors. These will take the factory mounting locations and adapt it to an aftermarket 6x9 inch adapter. And speaker harness wise, these are the Metra 72-5602. Essentially, it converts that factory harness adapter into one that'll plug into your aftermarket speaker. First thing we need to do is go ahead and mount our mid-range driver and our bracket adapter using the supplied hardware from our speakers. Once we get those all installed, we'll hook up our harness adapter to the back of the speaker and get everything prepped to be reinstalled back in the door. Once the door is done, we'll come back to the bench and show you how we're going to prep our factory and aftermarket tweeters to get that replaced in the A-pillar itself. So we went ahead and got the speaker mounted in the bracket itself using the supplied hardware from Alpine. Now the screws for the bracket may be a little oversized, which doesn't allow the screw itself to get a good bite. So what we did is we went ahead and put the little nutserts that come with the screws just to ensure that our screws don't rattle out or the speaker gets loose within the bracket itself. So that's all done. Now you'll notice here in the bracket there's also a hole specifically designed for your speaker harness adapters, because on our speaker design the speaker terminals are on the back but the harness from the factory is in the front of the speaker. So Metra provides this nice convenient hole to pass your harnesses through, and then they'll connect to the terminals here on the back. So we'll pull those on through. Now you notice I actually went ahead and taped it. This is high temperature tested tape, and this will prevent it from chafing here in the bracket itself. What we'll do is hook these up. There's 2 sets of terminals here. It's just a distribution in case you're installing these speakers in an application where it doesn't have a source for a tweeter. Ours does, so you can hook it to either set of terminals here. We're only going to use 1 set of terminals today on the back of our Alpine speaker. But these essentially all they do is they will just hook right on up. They're specifically sized for positive and negative, so you cannot accidentally reverse any sort of polarity there. And then once you get this all hooked up here, that's it. At this point of time, the speaker is ready to go back into the car. Okay, so we're back here at the truck. Now, before you go ahead and reinstall the speaker, this is a perfect opportunity if you want to go ahead and sound in the door or put in fast rings or roadkill or anything like that, just to improve your sound quality. That is totally optional, and you can always add it later on. Now, at this point of time, what we need to do is we're going to go ahead and install our speaker. Our terminals are towards the bottom versus the top here, so we want to orient the speaker where the terminal itself is facing down. You'll notice that this will perfectly align with the factory mounting locations, and what we're going to do is use the same screws from the factory speaker to install our new one. Now, these ones were the silver screws, not the black screws, so go ahead and put those in. Okay, so just like that, clips into place. We put some foam up and around this so it doesn't rattle here in the door. That's all in. Now, it's always a good idea at this point in time to do a test to ensure the speaker is working properly before you reassemble the door panel. Once you can confirm everything is sounding great, you can go ahead and reassemble the door panel itself in reverse order. Alright, so we have our A-pillar all pulled apart here, and as you can see here, our tweeter is mounted using 3 of these mounting screws. Ideally, we reuse the same bracket and screws to install our new tweeter so it's serviceable and accessible in the event we have to pop it out. So let's go ahead and remove this. We'll pull the tweeter out of that bracket and start finding a good place to mount our new tweeter in that same location. Alright, so we went ahead and just threw a little bit of hot glue in there. It's dried. That is removable. We can get a pick tool and pull that out in case we have to pop that tweeter back out of that location. This just ensures it doesn't rattle loose in the A-pillar, and it'll still fit really well behind the factory grill, so all looks factory. So at this point of time with this done, let's go ahead and remount this in the A-pillar. This end plugs into our crossover here. This crossover is only for the tweeter, and that's the benefit of using Alpine. Is this crossover doesn't have to run the mid-bass driver in the door, it only runs the tweeter. This eliminates any need to run new wiring through that door sill, which is nearly impossible on Fords. So this end plugs into our crossover, and then the other end of our crossover we're going to hardwire into the wiring found in the A-pillar itself. Alright, so what we've done here is we went and prepped our tweeter. There was a ton of extra wiring. We went ahead and actually, as you saw us, we just cut it shorter, heat shrunk it, and wrapped it and loomed it with some high temperature Tesa tape. You don't have to. We just didn't want all that extra wiring in the A-pillar. This just cleans it up a lot. Now, there's no harness adapter available for your tweeter, so we'll have to hardline this in. And what we did is we went ahead and pulled out our tweeter here, and we cut our factory harness. We left about 1 inch there in case we ever have to reattach that. So when you're looking at your tweeter here, the side with the capacitor is your positive, the side without the capacitor is your negative. So on this, on the passenger side, white with a purple stripe is positive, white with an orange stripe is your negative. On the driver's side here, because we've already done the driver's side, your solid white is your positive, again on the left, and your white with a brown stripe is your negative. So that's how you can differentiate. We strip back the wires here as well as the wires in the A-pillar, and we're going to crimp in. You can solder, but be very careful. You don't want to burn your dash or any surrounding plastic. So we like to crimp in these tight situations. It'll be a wire-on-wire crimp, which is perfect in our situation. On our Alpine harness, black stripe is going to be your negative, solid is going to be your positive. So we're going to match that in the A-pillar, again using some crimp caps. Alright, we are done here. We've replaced the 6x9 in the door and tweeter in the dash. These Alpine set, even on factory power, sound great. Down the road, if you do want to replace your factory amplifier or add one to your base audio sound system, we can suggest and link those parts in the description below. If you like any of the parts that we used today, we'll also link those in the description, as well as any other recommendations we have for you based on your trim level. If you want to see the rear door speakers, we actually did that, and we'll link that video in the description, which walks you through step by step on how to replace the factory 6.5 inch with the same Alpine aftermarket one. Thanks again for watching. Be sure to hit the like button if you liked what you saw, and don't forget to subscribe. We post great content on the channel all the time. We will see you in the next video.